Good afternoon, Oki. Thank you for being here today. We're gathered on the traditional territory of the signatories of Treaty 7 on Blackfoot territory and neighbor to Treaty 4. We also acknowledge the homelands of the Métis Nation within Region 3. My name is Shannon Phillips. I'm the Alberta NDP candidate for Lethbridge West. I'm joined today by Cathy Hogg, the Alberta NDP candidate for Cypress Medicine Hat, and Gwendolyn Dirk, the NDP candidate for Brooks Medicine Hat. There is less than a week left in this critical election, and Albertans have a choice. We can choose to build a better future with trusted leadership in the form of Rachel Notley, a leader who says what she means and means what she says. Or we can move backwards with Danielle Smith, a leader who spurs chaos, supports extremists, and changes her position on critical issues by the year, the month, the day, heck, even the hour. Now, I know Danielle Smith is tightly scripted these days, but let's be honest, that isn't the real Danielle Smith. We know who the real Danielle Smith is. She has told Albertans who she is over and over and over again. She has a hidden agenda for the next 4 years for Alberta. She's just working overtime right now to hide it from Albertans. First, we know she will make you pay to see a family doctor. She has said this countless times, drafted policy papers, embarked on speaking tours across the province. Her belief in wanting to privatize our healthcare isn't just some offhanded comments, but what she truly believes. She wrote in the Calgary Herald, quote, "A patient's healthcare card could be swiped like a credit card. The patient would sign a detailed receipt approving his services, and the portion he is responsible for would be tacked onto his provincial income tax." She believes visits to see your family doctor shouldn't be covered by the government. That's the plain fact. She thinks it was an error to include doctor visits in Medicare coverage. And she wants to create a, quote, payment relationship between doctors and patients. Those are her words, not ours, on tape and in writing. This will do nothing to help the many hatters who are struggling even to find a family doctor in the first place. Second, Danielle Smith wants to sell off public hospitals. Hospitals like the Vauqueview and the Peter Lougheed in Calgary. Hospitals like the Medicine Hat hospitals, where we go for specialized care here in southern Alberta. In 2021, Danielle Smith outlined her plan for different groups of doctors and a different group of patients to run our public hospitals for pay. This means they set the terms of care and what kind of bills you'll pay, and Albertans will pay more, and the wealthy can jump to the front of the line. We see this time and time again. The model that Danielle Smith was talking about is exactly the American model. Third, Danielle Smith also wants to take Alberta out of the Canada Pension Plan, gambling away our retirement security. She wants to steal pensions earned by people after a lifetime of hard work. She campaigned on this since 2012, and just last November in 2022, she signed a letter directing her finance minister to work on it. During the election campaign, however, she said she's afraid to talk about her favorite idea and has said it can be revisited after the election. Let's be clear. The time for protecting our pensions is now. Pensions are on the ballot in 6 days' time. Fourth, Danielle Smith will fire the local RCMP officers and bring in a provincial police service. She has directed her Attorney General to start working on the Alberta Provincial Police. But we all know firing the RCMP won't improve public safety. It will increase costs for you and your family, your property taxes, your municipality. It will make life more expensive for all Albertans. Now, an Alberta Provincial Police Service will cost municipalities as much as, get this, $1.36 billion of transition costs and lost federal revenue. That is why over 70 municipalities across Alberta made their wishes clear in an open letter, stating they don't want a provincial police service. Now, of course, the UCP ignored them. Fifth, Danielle Smith will spend hundreds of millions of dollars hiring 5,000 tax collectors for an Alberta revenue agency to collect our provincial income tax. She has said so herself on video, And her plan was later corroborated by former Finance Minister Travis Toews. In fact, Travis Toews confirmed to me in the legislature that $500 million was the low end of what it will cost for Alberta to have its own Alberta Revenue Agency. 5,000 new tax collectors was the low end of the costs. And what do Albertans get? The privilege of filing their income tax 2 times. That's what we get for this extraordinarily dumb idea. Economists have called this a bad idea that will cost potentially $500 million a year. I believe Albertans would rather hire 5,000 teachers or nurses instead of tax collectors, but clearly those are not Danielle Smith's priorities. Number 6, while regular families struggle with rising costs, Danielle Smith will hand over $20 billion of our money, our royalty money, to the biggest polluters. $20 billion, she has said, will go to companies that are refusing to clean up their abandoned or their orphaned wells right now, or their abandoned wells, even though they're legally obligated to do so. She pushed for this when she was a lobbyist, even though Jason Kenney's energy minister told her that it violated the polluter pay principle. What happened when Danielle Smith became premier? She removed that energy minister, just fired her, and appointed someone else that would implement this awful plan. All of these horrible ideas come from Danielle Smith herself, but she's not campaigning on any of them. She knows how unpopular they are with Albertans. This is her hidden agenda. Albertans are looking for a government that's focused on what matters, not on Danielle Smith's chaotic pet projects. In contrast, Rachel Notley and the Alberta NDP have a publicly available, costed plan that reflects the needs of Albertans. We will ensure that when Albertans need a doctor, they get a doctor. We will not sell hospitals. We will build them. We won't fire our CMP officers. We'll invest in hiring more police. We won't hire 5,000 tax collectors because that's a dumb idea. We will cancel the $20 billion handout to polluters. And we will never gamble away your pension. In fact, we will pass legislation to protect it. Unlike Danielle Smith, Rachel Notley is a leader you can trust. You know what she stands for. She is a leader who means what she says and says what she means. You cannot trust Danielle Smith. She does have a hidden agenda that will cause great harm to Alberta and to Albertans. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
I'll open up to questions. For those joining by Zoom or by phone, it's the *9 or raise hand function. We'll start with questions in the room.
I just have two.
State your name and others. Well, sorry.
Brendan Miller, Chat News. Just 2 questions. First off, you kind of spoke about the Medicine Hat Hospital. I was just wondering if we could kind of clarify the hidden agenda and how it will affect Medicine Hatters.
Well, we know that folks in Medicine Hat already have a challenge accessing a family doctor and many forms of specialists, and we know that there have even been challenges accessing a maternity care here in Medicine Hat. Over the years, I've come to do news conferences on this topic. So has Rachel Notley, to really amplify the voice that Kathy and Gwendolyn hear every day from people who are deeply concerned about healthcare. Making us pay for a family doctor, introducing American-style healthcare, outright selling off our hospitals. None of these ideas will attract more physicians to Medicine Hat. None of these ideas will make sure that there are clinics here for folks who need to have access to primary health care. They certainly won't attract or retain specialists that we know we need at this hospital. Just across the board where there are challenges around accessing health care, whether it's primary care or specialist care, we know that investing in the public health care system by calming things down in health care, so that healthcare practitioners know that they can set up their practice here, that they will be working with a government that respects public health care and the people that work in it. That is what Danielle Smith cannot deliver. That is what Rachel Notley will deliver. And there is no question that in 6 days' time, that is what people here in Medicine Hat and across Alberta can choose.
I just have one more question, if that's okay. Just for the tax collectors, and could you maybe elaborate more on the cost, the low end of 500 million, where that kind of information came, and is this an additional cost?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe if you could just talk about that.
Sure. So for a long time, one of Danielle Smith's pet projects, one of her more extreme ideas, is for Alberta to collect its own personal income tax. You would then file your income taxes twice. So, you know, the fun of filing your income tax, you could do that 2 times, which I don't know, doesn't seem like a very popular idea to me. And for that privilege, we will pay an extra $500 million, and we will have to hire about 5,000 people to do that work. Now, when I asked the finance minister about this during the budget debate in March, I thought that maybe he would say, oh no, it's not that much. He did not. In fact, when I put it to him that economists had said that the price tag for an Alberta Revenue Agency was about 500 million, he said that was the low end. That's the low end. So that cannot be our job creation strategy, that we are going to hire 5,000 tax collectors. But that is what we hear from Danielle Smith. In fact, it's really been the only productive idea in terms of hiring people that she's put on the table. And I think that Albertans would rather hire 5,000 teachers or 5,000 nurses, 5,000 allied healthcare workers. Make sure that we have the services we need in our communities rather than chasing these extremist pet projects that are extremely expensive and deliver no value.
Hi, Kendall King with the Medicine Hat News. Access to healthcare has been a really big issue in this campaign, and one of the things that's kind of, I guess, taken the focus of a lot of discussion is access to primary care physicians, specialty care physicians. But access to mental health is another really big issue here in Medicine Hat. What would your party do to enhance access to mental health services and supports?
That's an excellent question. There's kind of 2 things. So first, we have talked about making sure that we have clinics in areas, or opening a new clinic wherever we have a shortage of physicians and access to primary care, which includes access to mental health care. Medicine Hat is certainly one of those areas that it is experiencing those shortages, as is Lethbridge. Across southern Alberta, we see these shortages. And those family health teams wouldn't just be a clinic with physicians, they would be a whole team of providers, right? And so depending on what a community needs, you would find counseling psychologists or dietitians, social workers, and others working with nurses and doctors to deliver that care for folks. So that's the first thing. The second is, in our platform costing that I released last week, there's also funded 5 mental health therapy sessions per person. And we begin that funding right away. We will, if elected, by the fall. So I imagine those programs will be up and running within sort of a 6-month to 12-month time horizon. That will make a massive difference in people's lives. 5 sessions doesn't sound like much, but I think we all know that when things are really tough, that 5 hours of focused professional care can mean the difference for people. And that is something that I was very proud to have in our platform. It is a fully costed platform as well. The only other question there is, where do those professionals come from? That's where we need to make sure that, first of all, that our healthcare system is well managed and well run, and people want to stay here once they have the training. And also the training is accessible in the first place through our colleges and universities.
I do have a follow-up. Having like the 5 sessions up and running by the fall is a good goal, I guess, to outline. But how do you expect to, like, this is a long-term issue of bringing people in and fixing a system to the point that, like, people want to come and study here and they want to set up here, that they want to build communities here. Like, it oftentimes takes more than 6 months to even get someone interested enough and, like, signed on to coming to a place like Medicine Hat. How long will this actually take to build family health teams and to bring in enough counselors to be able to offer those services?
Well, certainly we see folks already. We have quite a bit of capacity on the mental health side, I would argue. On the family health teams piece, that's why we have attraction and retention bonuses costed into the platform, and that's why we will work with the primary care networks around what they call alternative remuneration for physicians. Meaning that they are on salary, and it is a more efficient way to ensure that we've got folks on contract and that they are staying. There's also quite a bit of attraction and retention for other allied health professionals costed into our platform. And there's the piece around creating spaces, training spaces within colleges and universities as well. So it's a whole continuum. And I fully appreciate that around mental health, it is not just about access to counseling, that there are also challenges around training, recruitment, retention of psychiatrists. In particular, child psychiatry is a real pinch point here in Southern Alberta. And those are things that you can only fix when you are not also busy burning down public health care. And so Albertans have a choice. They have a leader that they know they can trust to get to work on public health care, that we know will roll up her sleeves and to make a good faith effort to make sure those services are there for all of us. Or you have a choice of a leader who quite literally wants to make us pay to see a doctor, sell off public hospitals, and otherwise has demonstrated zero respect for our public health care system.
Perfect. We'll now go to those that joined online. Again, it's the raise hand function or *9. Seeing none, we'll do one more pass in the room for a follow-up.
Hi, Brooking with Medicine Hat News again. I also am wondering, Danielle Smith recently announced, or promised rather, to introduce legislation that would mandate Albertans with severe drug addictions undergo treatment. What is your stance, and I'd specifically like to hear from Gwen Cathy regarding that, and if you're in favor of that, or any other plans you may have for treatment options here.
Thank you for the question, Kendall. Myself personally, I'm not in favor of neither having it or denying it. I'm not an expert in that area, and so what we tend to do is we tend to consult with experts, and experts have been consulted on this issue, and there have been papers written. And, you know, maybe there's still more research to be done on this, but as far as the research goes, it's indicated that it's a very costly, expensive item, and perhaps it doesn't necessarily always work. But again, I would defer to experts on that myself. So those are my feelings. Cathy, you want to add to this?
Yeah, thank you. And I would agree with Gwen. I think that, you know, it's a very complex situation. Again, we're not healthcare workers. It's critical that we get the proper people at the table to help inform this conversation going forward and what the answers are. It's important that we consider that the trauma behind a lot of what is going on, and it's a human rights issue as well. So I would be very careful about forcing people into treatment that they don't want or they're not prepared for.
Perfect. So seeing no more questions, we'll end today's press conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you.